Welcome to the Thane Hines Potential Difference YouTube channel. In this demonstration today, we're going to be calculating the amount of electromagnetic field energy that is created in the RegenX motor. It's the created electromagnetic field energy that is responsible for acceleration of the RegenX motor. There is no external energy supplied to the motor when it's accelerating. All the acceleration is coming from internally created electromagnetic field energy. So, in order to calculate the rotational kinetic energy increase or rotational kinetic energy creation, first we need to look at, we need to establish our rotational inertia. And what I've done is the rotational inertia and the angular velocity of our system. So what I've done is I've dismantled an induction motor prime mover, and I've taken out the rotor, and I've taken off a permanent magnet rotor in order that I can determine the rotational inertia of our rotating pieces. And the rotor combination is 5.7 kilograms, and the radius of our disc is 0.305 meters or 12 inches. And the rotational inertia is 0.265 kilograms meters squared. And the angular velocity is the conversion of the RPM that we'll be measuring to radians per second. 3,000 RPM equals 314 radians per second. And that's derived from the fact that 1 hertz is equal to 60 RPM, which equals 6.28 radians per second, and 3,000 RPM equals 314 radians per second, and we'll be operating in the 3,000 RPM range. So once we know since we know what our rotational inertia is, we just need to figure out what our angular velocity is dependent on the RPM of the system, and we're going to determine the rotational kinetic energy, the initial rotational kinetic energy at rotational equilibrium, and then we're going to turn on our motor, and our motor is going to accelerate up to another point of rotational equilibrium. And what you'll notice is the power to the prime mover will drop considerably as the speed increases. And what's happening in our system is the torque that's supplied by the prime mover is dropping while the RegenX motor is accelerating the system, and a new rotational equilibrium will be established at a higher speed. We'll figure out the kinetic energy at our higher level, and then we will calculate the total amount of energy created by the total amount of electromagnetic field energy that's created by the RegenX motor, which performs the positive work accelerating the system. So we'll fire up the system and we will see what happens. in the RegenX motor in this demo is 2,734.6 joules, and that translates into 2,734.6 joules of electromagnetic field energy that is created internally in our motor, which translates into 295 RPM increase without any externally applied energy to the prime mover or mechanical, well, basically the mechanical drive shaft power in the system is increasing, but it's increasing because the RegenX motor is increasing it. Now, the work energy principle is very clear, and it says that any increase in the kinetic energy of a system is being, energy is required, positive work is being performed. Now, if someone wanted to physically reduce the kinetic energy or the speed of this system by 295 RPM, the exact same amount of energy would be required to be, the exact same amount of energy would be required, which would perform negative work, which would decelerate the system. So anytime you hear of electric vehicle regenerative braking, where the generator is decelerating the system, don't be fooled into thinking that energy is not being created in that system, because it is, and the energy is being created and it's performing negative work. The RegenX motor uses electromagnetic field energy that is created in order to perform positive work. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. Cheers.